Guys, we're here on the Toast, and if you're watching on YouTube, I am wearing the same shirt.
He doesn't shower.
I don't shower. I don't shave. And my wife knows it. But again, I am Doug Brunner. I'm excited to be here. I'm with Brad Samuelson, Mike Fenn. Brad is from WLS, Water, Land, and Solutions, a water consulting, acquisitions, infrastructure. He'll get into that. I'm going to stop there. Mike Fenn, a trader for the almond company, buyer, almond trader, buyer. I'll screw it up. He can get more into that. But most importantly, today we are on water. We are talking about water, as everybody wants to know in California. What's going to happen? What's the future? How's it going to affect my crops? How's it going to affect my land? And if you're not asking that question, you're shit out of luck.
You're not paying attention.
Right. You're not paying attention. So see me from the shoulders. Come learn something. You call me up. I won't give you my phone number, but if you want to know what's going to happen in the future, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, Brad will definitely put a little fear in you if you don't have it right now. But fear...
There's opportunity.
Thank you, Brad. Where downside comes, there's always opportunity. And for young guys, I got Jason Trost in the background right now, a young guy kicking butt, a good family farm, Trost family, young guy learning. This is your future. Water is your future. It's going to be what feeds your animals, what feeds your crops, whatever it is. And we're excited to elaborate. Brad, Water, Land, and Solutions, a growing company right now. You guys started about 2 years ago, I would say. Yep. Okay. And adding on people, it seems like monthly, adding on clients and adding on projects. So tell people what you guys are doing. I think you guys have already been on a podcast before on the Toast. If you haven't, I forgot because I have a couple drinks at night when I do this. That's the fun of it. That's why we call it the Toast. We like to kick back and BS and talk about, what we're passionate about. And that's why,
right.
We do this at night. We're just chilling. We get to have dinner, and I get to talk to my friends, business associates. I get to learn. I'm going to learn from you guys tonight. Mike Fenn, you're a young guy. You ask way too many questions, but that's why you are sitting in the seat, because you have moved yourself up as a young trader in the almond industry where most guys aren't. Most of them are, 65, 70 years old, right. Viagra, trying to figure it out, whatever they're doing.
Trying to stay alive.
And you're a young guy trying to really look at different ways, different techniques, really understanding the market, economics of the world. So it's a heck load of fun listening to you. I get to talk to you guys both daily, right? I'm affiliated, and I'm proud to be affiliated with both of these guys daily. And I learn. These two are two guys I learn from daily. So if you're listening, if you are listening and this doesn't water or nuts, price of almonds don't correspond to you, start listening. And if not, pass it on to somebody who should, because this is going to be very important. Brad, I want you to talk about H2O. Talk about where we're going.
Well, there's two factors in water right now that are affecting California agriculture. It's obviously the implementation of the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. At the same time, we have pressures in the Delta to move water from the north to the south, so where the water is consumed. So you have two factors that are limiting the amount of water in the future for farmers to be able to produce their crops. A lot of people have made smart decisions over the years and have invested in water-rich areas, but there's been a lot of farm ground developed in
Let me interrupt you. Sorry. You just said water-rich areas. Brad, out of all the acres that are farming, and maybe you can't answer this. This just came to my head right now.
Mm-hmm.
What percent of ground is water sustainable today that you would just close your eyes and say, that ground's going to be farmed? Like, there's no issues in the future. What percent of California?
Well, I can give you a number that is readily discussed and published and researched, and that's related to the implementation of SGMA, Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. So I've read several reports that estimate that as SGMA gets implemented over the next 20 years, that there'll be 750 to 1 million acres of currently farmed land taken out of production.
And, and
do you
SGMA
believe
is
it?
what? Just for some people who aren't maybe paying it, don't really know what SGMA is. It's going to be doing what to California?
Well, surprisingly enough, California was one of the last states to regulate the extraction of groundwater. We're regulated in most areas. We've invented a lot of the environmental regulations that are now spread across the whole country. Well, we haven't regulated the extraction of groundwater until, SGMA was passed in 2014, and it's slowly being implemented. This critically drafted overbasins, which is most of the southern San Joaquin Valley, basically Merced South, and a few other subbasins, are considered critically overdraft by the Department of Water Resources, and that has made them have to implement groundwater sustainability plans by 2020, which ends up with basically eventually in some areas groundwater allocations, which farmers have never had to deal with, basically not being able to pump as much water as they need when it's even when it's there in the well.
I mean, coming from an almond perspective, right? I talk about SGMA quite a bit, not only with our growers, but also with our buyers. And I think a lot of our buyers really aren't aware of SGMA and the impact it's going to have on California's almond supply. I think one of the questions I'd like to ask you is, I know that there's all these sustainable groundwater or these basins that have been formed, right? And they have to have a sustainability plan, right? Now,
Yes.
There was a timeline at which those plans needed to be submitted to the state.
Yes.
Right? Have we already crossed that initial hurdle?
Yeah, the critically overdrafted subbasins, which is the majority of the basins that the people that we know farm in, that had to be submitted in January 2020.
Okay, so we've now submitted our sustainability plans to the state.
Yes.
Okay. What happens if the state rejects your sustainability plan?
Right now, these sustainability plans are written by local agencies.
Right.
When I say local, I mean water districts, county staff, locals who have a vested interest in the ag economy. If your groundwater sustainability plan is deemed insufficient by the state, that means the State Water Resources Control Board comes in from Sacramento and controls your destiny, basically.
Okay.
As these allocations come into place, instead of dealing with your irrigation district on your allocation, and if you're getting close to overconsumption, you have the State Water Board
Coming in and regulating.
Have you read
it.
any of those, Brad?
Lots. Several.
So
Do you believe any of them have failed or passed?
Well, the state hasn't came back on any of them.
Just from your personal experience.
Well,
I mean,
I
know you
from
can't mention names.
Well,
but-
from a farming background, I think a lot of them have done a lot of good in not overreacting and implementing strict allocations before they really understand the science behind their groundwater. Because if we implement groundwater restrictions too quickly, it could be devastating. It could be devastating.
But it'll potentially come one way or another, whether it's the local agencies self-regulating or it's the state deeming your plan insufficient and then coming down and stepping in.
Yeah.
So maybe staying along the lines of like these timelines, right? So now we've all submitted, or these critically overdrafted basins have submitted their plans. Now, what's the next hurdle, or what's the next kind of timeline that we're faced with? So we're in 2020 now. We've all submitted these plans. Now what?
Well, it's interesting that SGMA requires annual reports and 5-year check-ins with the state. So there'll be a lot of consultant money and lawyer money made in preparing these plans. But from the farmer perspective, there's starting to be these groundwater allocation, groundwater markets started. It's happening more in the South Valley than the North Valley, but it's definitely coming. When I say North Valley, I'm north up to Merced. Turlock and Modesto are a little bit behind. Well, they have better groundwater situation, but in the subbasins that are implementing allocations, there's going to be financial impacts. They're going to have to start paying for groundwater.
So we're in 2020 now, right? When should the teeth come to bear from SGMA? Should we be expecting it in the next 5 years, maybe the next 10 years?
5 years.
So in the next...
depending on the subbase. If you're in a very water-rich irrigation district,
yeah,
you're going to be fine. If you're used to getting 2-3 acre feet per
surface
acre
water
of surface water,
right,
no problem.
You're going to be fine.
Let's just focus maybe on those critically overdrafted counties, right, or district basins, I should say,
and areas outside of the water districts in those basins.
Okay. So maybe that's a good delineation to make. But just before we make that, I would say the vast majority of almonds that are grown in California are grown from Merced County south.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, Stanislaus is a big producer. Okay. But Merced, Fresno, Madera, Tulare, Kern. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but it's over 50% of the state's supply. I would venture to say 75. Yeah. 75% of the almonds in the state of California, which is 80% of the world's almond supply, okay, is coming out of areas that are critically overdrafted.
That means if you're up north, big dollars.
But what I'm
get the production though.
But not with $5 almonds.
Yeah.
Because when you're going to start seeing 75% of the state's production come out, which again is, we produce 80% of the world's almond supply. If you got good water areas, even if it's in Merced or whatever, you could probably get by on 2,000 pounds an acre. You for sure could get by on 2,000 pounds an acre at $5 a pound, which you may be looking at in the next 5 years. So maybe we could go back to the difference between surface water and groundwater. I think we were kind of talking about that a little bit.
Sure. Well, surface water obviously comes from the surface. It's from rivers and streams. It's a very complex system in California.
As well as wet water. Explain that too. Yeah.
Did you say wet water?
Wet water.
Didn't know dry water.
No, it's another term that Brad will. It's an earlier stage water from January to April and
flood water.
Yeah.
Flood water. Well, there's difference. Well, to answer your question, surface water comes from the river systems of California. A lot of it comes through the Delta. Since Henry Miller, there's been the introduction of dams and irrigation companies and irrigation districts, federal system and the state system, all garnering this surface water. Most of it's moving from the north to the south, from the water-rich areas to the areas that have less water but have better soils for agriculture. So that's surface water. That obviously is a finite resource that comes from Mother Nature that we manage year to year with storage. Then there's the other source of water is groundwater, which you mentioned. That is what we come from the ground that is now regulated by the state that hasn't been. So what comes from the wells, mind you, there's lots of farm ground, almond acres that are 100% reliant on groundwater. So they require 3.5 to 4 acre feet per acre to produce their crop, and it all comes from the ground. And over the next 20 years, they're going to be limited in some areas to less than an acre foot of pumping. So 3.5 feet of water needs to come from a different source.
and some places don't have the infrastructure to actually wheel that water to your ranch.
Most don't.
Infrastructure, you just said. Infrastructure. Brad, what are you doing, which I already know you're doing, on possible other outcomes for people who are solely reliant on groundwater? What are you doing right now to bring in infrastructure to, I guess,
Those
add to that
to help.
3 acre feet
Right.
Yeah.
that they're going to be missing from, right?
Well, that's my bread and butter passion in agriculture right now, is working with those farmers, one way or another. Probably, working with tens of thousands of acres of farmers in that situation, and we're looking at obtaining water rights for them. So if they have a tributary creek that comes through the ranch, there may be an opportunity to take some stormwater from those creeks, i.e. surface water, not groundwater, utilize it. It may not be exactly when your crop needs it, but maybe you could store it in a reservoir or put it in the ground. So there's water right issues that you
Credit.
need. Well, yeah, there's going to be groundwater credits in the future. So there's small local projects you can do on your own ranch, but then there's also big projects that I'm working on where there's, a water district that doesn't have a secure water source, surface water source, but is adjacent to a water-rich district. And some years those districts may have surplus water that they could sell to this water-poor district, except for conveyance. Well, these farmers that are looking at a shortfall of groundwater, well, maybe now it's time to build that big infrastructure.
And you look at those guys who've been out of district. They knew what they were getting into a long time ago. And
This is business.
yeah, this is business. Exactly. They don't pay the taxes, water taxes. So a lot of them will bitch about, hey, I gotta spend X to get to it. But the reality is,
I don't deal with a lot of them. You have to, but it's not about emotion to me.
yeah,
It's about business
you want
and
it or not?
science.
But a lot of their land values were reflective of the fact that they didn't have surface water. Because right now you're seeing a big differential, right?
it's getting
you have
bigger
seen
and
that
bigger.
in the last 18 months.
Yeah.
You have never seen that before.
Really?
Hardly.
to the
yeah,
same extent.
To the same extent. That.
It was within a few $1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it's like
20,000?
Yeah, let's be honest. There's a lot of good ground outside the district that produces
A lot
high.
of good soil.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But are you
And-
gonna go spend 20,000 on that?
Right. But I mean, today, water's going to affect land values more so now than ever.
And I
Increasingly.
know, Mike. Me and you talk about it a lot of times. You're every day I call you. What's happening with the almond price? And you go, it's nothing good. Okay. Thank you, Mike. You made my pocketbook feel good. However, I am bullish. I am bullish because, and I always tell you, Mike, I know a little more than a lot of people know. And it's not me personally. That Doug is not very smart. But one thing Doug is pretty smart about is I walk into Brad's office every day and I say, hey, what's happening over here? Or Chase, what's happening over here?
Right.
And guys are struggling to find water right now.
So I think, kind of one of my first statements was, I talk about Sigma. I try to educate my customers on what Sigma is and what it potentially means.
Maybe
And
you
that's-
shouldn't. The price will go higher.
Well, I think that they need to be aware of what's coming, right? Because a lot of the people that we deal with are people who build products around what you guys are farming, what you guys grow.
Good point.
And so they're a partner of yours in business, right? They're the guy that's going to, send you dollars, right? So that's why I think it's important to maybe talk, like we just did, talk about that timeline of, look, maybe it's going to be 5 years. And that's not really that long of a time. And the teeth of Sigma are going to start to really sink in. Coupled with cheap or relatively low almond prices, okay? I think that what it's going to do is going to start to dramatically affect the almond supply.
Yeah.
And that's why I try to educate them on, like, look, you guys, California's not going to look the same in the next 10 years. You're in a critical water year this year, if I'm not wrong. And you're potentially headed into a drought. So all of a sudden, this water shortage that's going to be created in California is going to have dramatic effects on commodity prices. And I believe it's going to dramatically affect the pricing of almonds and the value of real estate here. And It's already affected the value of real estate. It really hasn't hit the price of almonds. It hit the price of almonds in 2013 to 2015 during the last drought. And we were trading almonds at $4.60 a pound.
Good.
On the bottom and $5 at the top. Okay?
Good.
And I don't see why you couldn't get back to those levels if what we're talking about actually comes true. Okay? If we have to fallow.
If you're in a good water / soil environment.
Well,
if you have both, if you're getting production and you have secure water.
But the price of almonds is going to be the price of almonds, and whoever's going to be able to farm them are only going to be the guys in secure water
that's
areas.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
There's a lot of very large growers, people we all know and love, that have ranches that don't have secure water. So when they hear about 3 to 5 year outlook on almond prices being, $4, well, that's not for their ranch. And their land values. I mean, especially if they're in their later
You're
years.
right, Brad. And I've been in, I'm a partner with Brad. I love being a partner with Brad because the benefit is all I care about is what my future for my land is for my children and things like that. And anytime I do a deal, I walk in to them and I say, what do you guys think? And sometimes they kill it, right? It's like, oh, I didn't think about that, right? And then they talk about people, even large landholders are like, Brad, I gave them an option and they seem to pass on it. And it's like, you are, I wouldn't say playing with the devil, but it's like, this is going to be serious shit, right?
Yeah.
I know, Mike, your father-in-law's got the talk of the town building 700 acre foot reservoir. And I'm not going to say the town, but he's thinking, how can I catch as much water as possible? And I know Brad's conceptualizing banks and things like that. It's like some people are reality and some people are just sitting back.
They're an ostrich with their head in the sand.
Yeah.
And I think like we're saying right now, it's maybe a time of doom and gloom, like, oh, we're going to be regulated, real estate values are going down, but those people who see the opportunity in it are saying, I'm going to build ponds, I'm going to try to strike a deal with my district so I can build some infrastructure and wheel water in it so I can at least have the ability to buy water on an open market if it's available. Other than that, people are going to flop over dead. Their investments are going to be worth almost nothing.
Brad, and once, I know Brad just worked on a deal. Again, I can't say everything, but Brad just worked on a deal. And I think about all these out-of-district guys and that have the ability to buy SOI water.
What is that?
Brad can say it.
If your farm is adjacent to a water district, you're within there. A lot of times you're within their, it's called sphere of influence, SOI, and the district can sell you water. Out of district water. So you don't pay their assessments. You haven't helped build the infrastructure.
You're paying a premium for that water, though,
Yeah,
because you don't pay those taxes.
It's been about half. It seems like it's always about 150% to double.
Yeah.
But we're gonna start looking at 6 times.
Oh yeah.
Triple. And so now
people that have never paid over $45 an acre foot are
so
gonna
now
calls.
so now you got a lot of these guys have to make a serious decision.
Right.
And there's only a certain amount of this water. And I know like Brad's working with some growers. There's only going to be, if there's $10 sitting here in ones, and you grab one, I grab one, Brad grabs one, I grab another, you grab another. There's only so many dollar bills sitting out there, or acre feet of water. And once somebody makes a decision, I'm going to buy a 5-year, 10-year contract out. Now it depletes. The bank account depletes. The bank and
you've established the market.
So, thank you. And the guy sitting on the sideline saying, "I will not pay that water for 5 years."
I remember when it was $5.
Yeah, is now sitting there and saying there is no longer water.
Right. And I have an investment that I've made in whatever it may be, almonds, pistachios, walnuts, whatever it may be.
Arrogance is going to be the fall of
unfortunately, the majority of that mindset that I see is in the dairy industry. Not just the reality of growing feed crops, the amount, all the input costs, price.
They use a lot of water.
Yeah, double, triple cropping. There's
tough times ahead.
Yeah, California dairy industry is going to see a lot of changes.
And
they already have.
And the dairymen are probably the most evolutionary, right? They're
non-evolutionary. They don't evolve.
No, I believe. I believe some of the big guys.
Well, the big guys for sure. That's why they're big.
But, you know, the guy who puts, I put all of my shit water on that one piece of ground. You know,
my 200 cows.
Yeah, my vacas no need the feed today, but that is offset.
You're such a great impressionist, really. Yeah. You make some of the best voices there is in town. Sorry.
No net this Corsala this year. But
how much you charge me for the Corsala?
Yeah, how much you charge me? I don't pay the Corsala. I feed the cows the milk run. Anyways, we have a lot of fun. We've had a couple cocktails tonight, but.
Okay, so your dairy guys are
dairy guys, I would say, are actually they're always getting prosecuted, so they're always thinking ahead how they work with things. You know, they're going to running drip manure through.
And the innovators.
There is some
the
serious innovators.
I work with several of them.
Yeah,
several of them.
And those guys are on point
and willing to put their money where their mouth is.
Yeah.
Yep. Right. And that's the innovation that we're talking about of the people that are going to succeed through this.
And almond guys
shrinking of arable acres.
Almond guys, pistachio guys are going to have to start thinking
the same thing.
Well,
same thing. Russell talked a lot about that.
Well, maybe one of the we hired an intern, right? Maybe kind of moving back to almonds, because that's where my expertise is. But we hired an intern. Jean Bird. And he did a little research project for us. You know, we mapped out all the acres in the state of California, all the almond acres by the districts. We did a little bit of research on the districts. We rated them from, good to bad, depending on their
1 to 5.
It was it was good to bad, and I think good was you received 3 acre feet of surface water in the last 10 years. I think good moderate, I think, was over 1.5 or something like that, or over 2 in the last 10 years. And bad was whitelands or less than 1 acre foot. So I guess
that's good.
Moderate was, +1.
Yeah.
Our research, don't know if it's right or wrong, but just what we came up with was that 40% of the planted acreage in the state of California, planted almond acreage in the state of California, will be affected by Sigma. Whether that's rated bad. That's rated bad. 40% of the planted almond acreage in the state of California, when we did this a year ago, and we're in the last day of July 2020 right now, was rated bad.
Yeah.
So when we start to look at that, and we try to tell our buyers, hey, look, this is what we perceive the reality to be that's coming potentially in the next 5 years, that 40% of the production in California is going to be affected by this. You need to be ready for that.
It's a ramp down.
Right. So today we expect that we're gonna produce 3 billion pounds of almonds for the 2020 crop. Mm-hmm. By the time the 2025 crop rolls around, you could be looking at something much closer to 2 billion than 3 billion.
What year?
2025, maybe 2026.
Interesting.
So
wow. The dynamic you and I were talking about earlier that is really interesting to me is the dilemma of when to or not to replant. You got a low almond price, Sigma outlook.
Right.
At what point do I replant? Do I replant wall to wall, or do I leave some ground out because of insufficient groundwater? Do I try to do a recharge project?
Right.
That's where the innovators, the forward thinkers, are gonna.
Well, I think right now, today, we're basically paying a blended average price to growers on the 2020 crop of probably close to $1.60. Okay.
Yep.
Maybe a little less, depending on what your mix is of varieties.
Yeah.
I think if you have an orchard that's producing, 2,000 pounds, maybe even, 2,500, depending on what your input costs are, I think you're starting to the conversation of replanting and pushing out is now pushed to the forefront.
Mm-hmm.
I now all of a sudden have a bunch of orchards that are now no longer profitable to me. I can't even break even. So I think that conversation is now like at the dinner table. Guys, look, we're losing money on this ranch. We're losing money on that ranch. What do we do? And now I don't have water.
And do I have the cash to replant?
Right, but then
you won't get Brad, you're working on it with a lot of banks.
Yep.
You're working with a lot of banks right now.
Will you get refinanced?
Will they
Right.
allow refinancing?
right,
What's your water security?
right. I think there's a lot of opportunity in what you guys are doing, in the value of planting almonds in the right areas at the right time. I do think it's scary to some people. Some people don't even realize it, right? The ostrich theory, got my head in the sand, not really paying attention to it, but I think there's quite a bit of opportunity in it, actually. It's pretty exciting, really.
And it's a changing environment. When I talk to some of my older compadres about what we're doing in water and how it's exciting, they always remind me that California water farming has always been exciting.
Yeah.
Just
Your dad can explain on that shit.
Yeah, all of our dads and grandpas, at least I don't know your background in farming, but
His dad's a big farmer.
people talk about the pros and cons of farming and how much money people make and don't make and this and that. I can tell you one thing. I remember seeing some of my relatives, grown men, tough men, crying when storms would come in. Like, this is their everything. Like, not just the way that they feed their family, it's their pride.
Yes.
Right.
It's real.
It's real. It's real. All the things we're talking about are real. And yet, I'm into business to make money, but I also love helping farmers to help them get through this.
Yeah.
You deal with some good people, some
Yeah.
big boys, some just middle of the road farmers, and they're all passionate about what they do.
Yeah, that's the people that I work with. If the people that have their head in the sand, they don't call me.
Right. You're right. You're people you're working with aware people.
Yeah.
Right, they're aware of their situation around them.
Yeah, and inevitably, I make them spend money.
Right.
Our work they end up spending $300 an acre foot, or they put in a $15,000 pipeline when they haven't needed to in the past. They haven't had to spend that extra cash, but through these sorts of conversations, the grower level, at the district level, whatever it is, you live and learn.
What percentage of growers do you think are actually proactively pursuing
Shit.
water security?
Brad could answer better than me. I would say
5%.
maybe a little.
Let's talk about acres, because
That's
better idea.
totally different.
Yeah.
That's so wrong.
That's a better metric. That's a better
Acreage,
metric.
Probably 30, 40.
That's
Yeah.
a better metric.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
but
30,
that's
40.
Yeah.
that shows you
Right.
how big they are.
Small hands, big acreage.
yeah.
Yeah, and anybody listening right now, I would just say you really don't understand what Brad, Chase, and their team do. It's crazy, the things they're working on, the securities they're working on. And if you're a young guy listening, if you're old, you probably don't care as much no more. You know what?
You care for your grandkids.
It's
You
hard.
should. You really should, because this is serious
Yep.
stuff, and that's why we're sitting here. We could enjoy our drinks and talk offline, and we're saying this because I know Brad and Chase are passionate about what they do. They can have jobs doing a lot of other things, and they love water. They love the ability to make things that are falling apart happen, right? And what excites me is, shoot, if this water deal is for real, then price almonds will probably be $6-7. It probably will be in 10 years.
I agree.
But if you latch on to guys like Brad and Chase, you might maybe it won't be that high because they're going to give you an opportunity to bring some water on your...
Stay in business.
Yeah, stay in business, bank water, credit water. I mean, they're on the cutting edge.
Maybe on the cutting edge. Don't give us too much credit.
Okay.
That sounds a little uncomfortable.
I didn't like you that much anyway.
We definitely love what we do. We can definitely try to help.
You're passionate.
Help.
So
yeah.
what we're going to try to do as the Ag Center, as the Toast, is give people the benefit to start learning about water once a month. Brad came in today. Might be Chase and Brad next week. Next month, if everybody's lucky enough. Mike came on today. It was a lot of fun to listen. I get this daily, so I consider it fortunate. I don't probably take it as how do you say?
Don't appreciate it as much.
I don't appreciate it as much. Thank you.
I enjoyed being able to talk to Mike about from the almond industry perspective, not just almond, because we're all kind of in the almond industry, but he's dealing in the international market
for sure,
all over the world,
and
he's taking the responsibility of educating his customers, his buyers, on 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years.
You're educating your grower,
that
you're dealing with, and then
he's educating his buyer. They could be in England. They could be anywhere in the world.
It's all interconnected.
It is. It really is. And so we at the Ag Center, the Toast, are going to benefit people monthly. We're going to stay consistent in letting people know what's going on with water. I think it's going to be, again, we're kind of introducing it. I think Brad and Chase are going to get, in the next couple months, get more specific on what's happening.
Topics
Through Westlands, through, federal, through surface water, through banking. Here's the thing with water, it's changing monthly. And, they're gonna keep going on that. And
water news would be good. What's the price of acre foot for water on the Westlands, right? What is going on? Just news would be good.
Yeah. Well, that's what we're gonna give them.
I'd love to share that with people.
We're gonna give it to them.
Because I put out a weekly market update to our customers, and at the end we always have this stupid drought monitor. Fuck, who gives a shit about our stupid drought monitor? But it would be very cool to almost have a little excerpt or something from you guys to be able to slap into our market update with, here's what's the water news in California from WLS.
That's beautiful.
We got plans for that.
Just a paragraph or two about here's what's going on in California, the water situation here. We are in a critical.
You know what I do when things are bad, Mike? Close my eyes. Just like you going into the canal today.
I closed my eyes and clenched everything.
And you're still alive.
I'm here to talk about it.
I'm happy you're here, man.
Yeah.
But Brad Samuelson, Chase Hurley, doing awesome things. Waterland and Solutions. They're doing big things. If you don't know about them, you better know about them.
Where do we find them? How do we get in contact
with these guys? They can contact the Ag Center, but
waterandlandsolutions.com.
There you go.
But I prefer call me on my cell phone.
Call me on a cell phone. Call me on my cell phone. Check them out on waterlandandsolutions.com. Check them out on Instagram, Waterland and Solutions. If you need to desperately get a hold of them, life or death, call the Ag Center. They'll hook you up with them. And they might be able to possibly save your land.
Even if it's a simple question.
Yeah, they're there.
No problem.
That's what we do here, man. Hey, toast to you guys. Brad, you just killed your drink.
Thanks, guys.
But
cheers.
I could pour a little in there.
All right.
Salud.
I'm not